This is Gary Wakefield, and you're listening to Queer Life Stories.
Hi, I'm James. I'm 21 and identify as a bisexual trans man. Most of my childhood and most of my teenage years, I grew up on the northwest coast in a small town called Penguin. Pretty small, pretty boring, I must say. I had a sister called Haley, and my mum and dad were together, but I suspect they're a bit unhappy.
So you and your sister close when you were kids?
And when we was kids, we was pretty close, but after, we both got older, we slowly drifted apart, and only because, we had different influences from our parents, kind of controlling us in a way. And I do remember as a child that I loved looking at guys and women and then be like, oh, you're both very pretty. and I remember most of my childhood I would actually, love to, dress up in knight armor, and I remember my pup made me a bow and arrow once and I loved playing with that. I used to do target practice in the backyard, and yeah, when I was little I just wanted to, be a boy. I wanted to, do everything what, a typical, stereotypical boy would do, but honestly wasn't really allowed to do that, and kind of suppressed over the years, and yeah, just hid it for a while. I remember when I was really little, and I used to go to this kind of like a churchy preschool type thing before you go to kinder, and Mum made some really good friends with this lady. So we went to her house one time, and her whole family was there, and all the little kids I used to play with was there. And I remember I was playing with the boys' toys, handcuffs, mini sword, little basketball. And then the lady literally walks up to me and says, "No, you're not allowed to do that. You're a girl." And I'm like, "But I want to play with these." And they're like, "No, you have to go play with those toys over there." I'm like, okay. And then I remember I had this friend that lived 2 houses away. We would always every day go to her house or go to my house, and whenever I used to go to her house, I used to play with a little brother, and he used to put on his Star Wars stormtrooper helmets and lightsabers and Nerf guns. I was having the time of my life, even dressed up in Power Rangers costumes and all that. I was having the time of my life. And then my mum eventually kind of found out, and then she didn't really like that. Yeah. Probably when I was 16, 17, I was, connecting the dots, and I cut my hair really short, and I was like, wait a minute. This feels more comfortable than, longer hair. And I was like, maybe let's, dress up in more masculine clothes. And by the time then I ran away from home because of family issues, and actually helped me find out who I was. Yeah, and by the time, the time I was away from my mom, I was growing into a better person and growing to my skin more. And then a few months I was connecting the dots from the past, and yeah, then I was like, you know what, maybe I am trans. Maybe I was always thought I was a boy, and I am one. And then I was like, you know what, stuff it, I'm coming out. So before I came out as trans, I came out as a lesbian, and I lost a lot of friends because of that, because they just didn't really understand, because, you know, in high school I would always, like, you know, talk about boys, but like for a while I was like, I like girls, and like, you know, I was slowly discovering who I was, and I, you know, came out as a lesbian, and then after a while I came out as trans, and now I came out as bisexual, because, you know, I'm slowly growing into my skin and feeling a lot more better than I was then. When I came out as trans, they just laughed at me, and they're like, no you're not. And I'm like, yes I am, why aren't you listening to me? And they're like, just kept laughing at me, and I'm just like, okay, then I'll just, you know, go away and not be friends with you. And yeah, I never really became friends with them again.
How did you cope with that?
I just had the mentality of like, well, at the end of the day, it was their loss, not mine. And other people don't determine my self-worth or get to decide who I am. I get to decide that. And yeah, I've always stuck by that. And I've removed a lot of toxic people out of my life because, you know, they're always being transphobic towards me, or like anything similar. Like anything like that is, of course, it's going to make you question your decisions, and it's going to, like, you know, it will have an effect on you, and, you know, you will, like, you know, spiral down to a rabbit hole, and, you know, and be like, oh, why? And like question why I did, you know, never accepted you even though you've been friends with them for like most of your life. And then I'm just like, you know what? It was their choice at the end of the day to be like that. And then I was like, and that just made me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True to yourself.
Exactly. You gotta be true to yourself. When I came as a lesbian, I was around about 15, 16. And I remember I was questioning it for a very long time, and I would always ask Dad, like, you know, little like breadcrumbs, like, because my uncle is also gay, and I was like asking like, how did he come out and stuff like that. But like, I remember one morning I was sitting on my bedroom floor, like cleaning up my clothes, I think, and then my mom just barges in, and then she's like, what, you got something to tell me? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, why are you being so sad and depressed now? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, you better tell me. And I'm like, tell you what? She's like, are you gay? And I'm like, and I just started crying, and I'm like, yeah, I am. And then she started yelling at me, like, saying, why wouldn't you tell me this early and all that stuff? She's like, why can't you just be bisexual? And I'm just like, excuse me. And then like 5 minutes later, she just goes into my bed and starts comforting me, because I have no idea, but I was very confused. The funny thing is, when I did kind of come out, I didn't even tell her, because I was obviously living, like, running away from her. But I was like, you know what? I know her reaction when I came out as lesbian. I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to change everything and, like, you know, let her work for herself. And I remember, because she used to, like, you know, send me messages, like, awful messages every day. Like, very manipulating messages every day. And you know, on Facebook you can change your nicknames. She would always change my name as a nickname back to my dead name, and I would always, you know, change it back to like, oh, your eldest son, and then she would change like her, so, oh, a devoted mother. And I'm like, what?
You and your mum did not have a good relationship at that point.
We never really did. Even before that, it was, I personally believe, because it's based off jealousy, because I had a better relationship with my grandfather than she ever did.
Okay.
So she likes to live through her kids.
So what's your relationship with her like now? Is there a relationship?
Not really. We don't really talk, but when we do, it's only when, you know, I accidentally sent something to her house, or something about Christmas. It's very rare. I rarely hear from her, and yeah, that's I barely hear from her, but when we do, it's actually kind of friendly, but not still the best.
Do you think she, do you feel like she accepts who you are?
I mean, at the end, she was kind of forced into accepting who I am, because I just was like, you know what, stop this. You're not gonna, have to say who I am gonna be. And yeah, I guess she's kind of understood that boundary and slowly kind of got better with it, but I know deep down she doesn't like it.
What about your dad?
It was pretty good, but it's never really been that good either, because Mum was jealous with the fact that I had a better relationship with him than her. So she likes to, make sure that, like, she's the favorite one.
Okay.
If you know what I mean. Like, we'd always used to, like, I helped Dad rebuild a GT Falcon once, and that took forever, but that was fun. And like, he would always like to teach me woodwork and all that, and Mum didn't really like that because, a masculine thing to do. She's, more into femininity, and I can't even say the word, but yeah.
Do you think she was, do you think she didn't want your dad to encourage you to be more masculine?
I don't know. I like I've said, she just likes to live through me.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, which is kind of annoying, especially when you want to be yourself. There was like a lot of people treating me like, absolute garbage. But my sister was actually quite supportive. She would actually like, no, hold on a second. His name is James, and that's my brother. And like, we may not have like the best relationship, but she does those little things, and yeah, she doesn't take shit from people.
I like that.
Yeah. She's like a little redhead too. In college, I came out as trans in year 12, and that's where I also met my partner too. But yes, school, like the actual like teachers and all that, they were quite, accepting, but just the peers around me wasn't. But still managed to pull through. Yeah. And when I did, like in college, I was like in year 11, I came out as gay, like lesbian, and I had a lot of creepy people like, try to like, convert me. And that was fun. A lot of like creepy guys sending me pictures after pictures, like, I don't want to see that. And like, not respecting that boundary. And after I came out as trans, they, like, some people would be quite creepy as well, because, trans people are, somewhat a fetish in most people's eyes, because, yeah, it's a bit hard to talk about that because, trying to find the best way to explain it, but yeah, it gets bad with that stuff. When I came out as gay, I didn't really find that many people because I always kept to myself. Always. Everything was always online based, and I did have an online girlfriend, and she wasn't the best, and after her I dated my ex for like about a year, and that was a very life-changing relationship. She also helped me get out of the household I was in, but going into like, from a toxic environment and going to another one, there's always a blessing and a curse. And I guess that blessing was to be able to figure out who I truly was without, the manipulation from your own mother. But you're also getting manipulated by the person that you're with. And she was somewhat supportive, but she would say things that were very horrible. Like, I want to know what's like to have sex with a guy, like an actual guy. And I'm like, what? Like, like, I didn't even know how to respond to that. I was like, but I am one. And she's like, oh, you know what I mean, don't get upset about it. And I'm like, I'm allowed to get upset about that comment. And she would always, say stuff like that. And always get angry at me for me getting upset. But no longer with that person. Five months ago, I finally got my name changed legally, and I got excited. Bring it to the rostering manager. She photocopied it, but guess what? My name's still as through that system. My dead name, and no matter how many times I, was like harassing him, like, hey, have you changed it? Or like, how's the progress on it? And they're like, don't know, we'll have a look at it. But they'd never could get back to me or change it. And we have a new rostering manager now. She went around saying, oh, if I knew he changed his name, I would have changed it already. But they already know that my name's already changed, and they already have the photocopies of my, legal documents. So, yeah. A few crew members, they've been said transphobic stuff, but I'm glad to have a few friends that have actually stood up to me, because, people gossip around one another. And I remember one of my crew members, crewmates, they went around saying, oh, has James had the bottom surgery, or has he fully transitioned? What was his dead name and all that? And go around saying that and talk smack about me. And when I finally found out, I confronted her, but she still kept doing it. And I went to my restaurant manager and I talked to him, but he never did anything. And considering that he's part of the LGBT community, you'd think he would do something, but he hasn't even done that. I do have LGBT friends, but I don't really have any trans friends, because I've had some bad experiences with the fellow trans folk. Because every time I did try to be friends with them, they would always be like, oh, you want to hook up? Or, you want to date? And I'm like, look, I just want to be a friend, and nothing more. And sometimes I usually don't respect that boundary, and they keep pushing onto that. But, understand, but you need to, respect people's boundaries and space. And I wish that I was able to make friends on the Northwest that are part of the trans community, but I personally do stay away from that because of those experiences, and which is kind of shit, because I want to be friends with people that go through similar stuff, but yeah, they always end up being a bit creepy. So in grade 12, we were in the same class together in English writing, and she obviously saw me before I came out, and she was always like, oh, it's the person that always wears the same hoodie every day. Trust me, it was Wash. But yeah, we would always glance at each other, be like, oh, they're pretty cute, but we never really thought much of it, because both anxious, and I was with my ex at the time as well, which is but I remember she used to come to McDonald's all the time when I was working, and we'd always catch eyes or glance. But I remember one particular time I was in the cashier booth in the drive-thru, and I remember she was in a friend's car, and I was like, oh, that's Brielle. And then we both just locked eyes, and then we just locked eyes as soon as they drove off. We were still looking at each other. And then a few weeks later, I posted something on my Instagram story because I was just ranting about this old lady being transphobic and, you know, not respecting any boundaries. And she messages me like, oh, that person's such a bitch. And then, like, pretty much along the lines, I can't even remember, it was like ages ago. But yeah, we started talking over, you know, that, you know, person that was being mean to me. And then a few days later, we started talking about Keanu Reeves. Yeah, always a good topic to start off with. But yeah, and then we just started talking more and more, and we got together. And probably the most best and most happiest relationship I've actually been in, the most healthiest one. Like, she gets me, I get her, and you know, we just click. I started testosterone about 4 years ago this month, I think, or maybe 3. Can't really remember. I never really took track because I personally don't think it's for me. It's important because, you know, I'm just growing to a better person than I am, and I don't really want to be reminded of the person who I was before. But man, testosterone can change you very quick. I remember on the 3rd month my voice was actually dropping a bit, and like I got really sore bones and like muscles because it changes everything. And yeah, like you know, typical you know, where the body fat would be, it moves everywhere else, and like that's crazy. But it's life-changing and freeing, well, personally for me, and maybe for other people, maybe not, but for me, it was probably the best decision I've ever had, because I was able to grow into my skin more comfortably, and knowing that, you know, I'm going to be able to pass and be the person I want to be. When I started, yeah, I got misgendered a lot, but as like while I took testosterone, after a while I noticed that I was getting misgendered less, and like able to pass more as well. Like, yeah, I've like, you know, there's insecurities of my heights, you know, I've always been scared because of my height. I'm gonna be like, oh, they're gonna find out. But they're just like, oh, you know, short like Danny DeVito. But
you got better hair than Danny DeVito.
Of course I do. Jeez. But yeah, I got misgendered like less after I started, you know, having testosterone shots. Because before I started shots, I was on androchrome, I think, or something like that. I can't remember. It's too fancy of a name, but it's a cream that you actually apply, and you just like rub it on your stomach or wherever, and you literally just, you know, your skin absorbs the testosterone.
Okay.
And yeah, which was quite efficient as well. But testosterone shots are easier because you don't have to forget putting the cream on every day.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'm gonna get top surgery. I'm gonna save up for that, and which is like hella expensive. But I'm really keen on getting my, you know, chesticles off. Like, that's the best way I can describe them in a non-dysphoric way. But I'm definitely gonna get them muted off, and I'm just keen and hella excited because that's the worst part of, you know, transitioning, because, you know, it's hard to hide most of the time, and you don't really, in my eyes, like, you don't want people to find out because of, you know, just like a slight bump on your chest. And every time, like, you know, walk, you know, near windows and all that, like, I see that and I go into a state of panic. I'm like, oh no, you know, people are actually going to find out, and like, I know that they won't, because, you know, I'm able to hide it well with like, you know, clothes like, you know, flannies and hoodies and all that. But just subconsciously knowing that like someone could see that like a little bump is terrifying. Like, and intensifies my dysphoria because I'm like, because you know, it's not meant to be there. It's not meant to be part of my body, and unfortunately it is for now. But at the end of the day, you just gotta start to feel comfortable in your own skin before you make major changes like that. Because you know, so you can accept of what was and what will be. If you know what I mean? Yeah. I do wear a binder, but I'm a bit naughty and I wear two. You're not meant to do that.
No.
Sorry if anyone's listening to this. Don't take my advice on that.
No, don't do two. Okay? Be very clear.
Do not do two. Stick with one and make sure they're fitted properly. Not for too long. Best is to have them in like 8 hours a day, and make sure you measure yourself before you get them. So like, best websites I can suggest is GC2B or Underworks. But there is actually a really good tape from a trans guy. He created this like adhesive tape, you know, like the sports tape.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, but designed to help you bind. And these are actually quite good. And that's also a very good alternative. But I recommend to do your research before you start binding, because you don't want to damage your body and ruin your chances of having top surgery. So do not bandage, don't double or quadruple bind, even though I'm doing it, don't. But just do it safely and always do your research. My best advice is always talk to people that you 100% trust. And honestly, if you feel like that way, do it. Just, you know, don't hold back. You're meant to be who you are, and you're meant to start loving yourself for who you are and be yourself, because you're only one person in this whole entire lifetime, and you're the only person that's going to get through things. And yeah, just be your genuine self, and you'll find the right people in the end, or they'll find you. I want people to know that you're not alone, especially while you transition. There is plenty of people out there that will love you for who you are and who you're yet to be. Don't be afraid of anyone else, because their opinions never matter at the end of the day. Because if they decide to live for you, that's on them, but don't let them control you. And just be, like I said, just be your genuine self, and that's where you can find your true happiness.
Thank you.
It's all good.
If you would like to share your story, talk about your experiences, or would just like to get in touch, you can email me at queerlifestories@outlook.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram. Just search for Queer Life Stories. If you are listening in Northwest Tasmania and would like to be part of an LGBT+ community, social and support group, search Facebook for Northwest Pride. In Tasmania, if you want support for your sexuality, gender or intersex status, you can contact Working It Out on 03 6231 1200. Q Life provide anonymous and free LGBTI peer support and referrals for people across Australia wanting to talk about sexuality, gender identity, relationships and more. They're available 3 p.m. to midnight every day on 1800 184 527, or web chat with them at qlife.com.au. You can hear future episodes of Queer Life Stories at Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Please follow, rate and review. It does really help. We will be back soon. Take care of yourself and each other.